It is the Chief Baseball Officer of the Boston Red Sox, Chaim Bloom. Chaim, good morning.
Morning.
Wanted to go right to what Nathan Eovaldi said this week, and wanted to ask you, in your mind, are there, whether it's Plawecki or Vasquez, or you pick the player, are there guys who bring something to a clubhouse that is more important than what they do on the field?
100%. And I think Kevin's one of those guys. I actually agree with everything Nate said about him.
When he says on those terms, what does he mean by that?
So I didn't hear the whole quote. What do you mean on those terms?
Having him, I'm paraphrasing, but having him leave on those terms.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to ask him. Obviously, I assume it had something to do with just the timing of doing this with a couple of weeks left in the season. And that's something that, look, this is only the second year of the new September rules. Obviously, last year we were in a different position. So we weren't contemplating something like this, but this is something people aren't used to, because you used to be able to keep everybody you wanted, because you could have up to 40 guys on your big league roster in September. So it's a little bit of a different landscape now, and this isn't the position we wanted to be in at this time of year. But I think you will see some of these types of things from different clubs who are in this position at this point in the year. So
I guess as you look to improve this team next season, is it going to be important for you from a balancing perspective to be able to keep some of those guys who bring that element to the clubhouse, as opposed to letting those guys move on?
Yeah, it always is. That's nothing new. That's something that I've always prioritized. I know it's something the Red Sox have always prioritized. Every good team I've been around has had those types of guys. Obviously, you want guys who bring everything to the table. You want guys who do it on the field and in the clubhouse. We're fortunate to have a number of those guys, and expect we'll continue to.
Now, I have $500 to the Judge Fund, right? I don't know if you guys need that, but when you look at players like Aaron Judge, that I think you should probably sign, when do you guys go into free agency and say, okay, we need to stop making calls to these players' representatives? Is it the day after their season's over, or is it the day after your season's over?
Well, you can't do any of that until the World Series is over. Okay. By rule. So it's definitely not going to be before then, because we'd be in some serious hot water if we tried to do that.
So a player like that, just in your opinion, we were talking about this earlier with Bradfo, a player like that, let's say he does end up having a Triple Crown season and hits over 60, is that, in your mind, the best offensive season ever in Major League Baseball?
It'd be, AC and I were talking about this recently. I think it'd be hard to top what Barry Bonds was doing the first few years of this century. I'm not sure we'll ever see something like that again. But this is as good as we've seen in a while, or as good as we're likely to see for a while. I mean, it's really remarkable, and obviously wish it weren't being done by a New York Yankee, but anybody who likes baseball should have some appreciation for what he's able to do, especially in this era, and how tough it is to hit right now, and hit for power and average.
Chaim, we had your good friend of mine, Rob Bradford, on earlier, and he laughed when I said that the Red Sox should be interested in Judge. Knowing you can't talk about him, I'm not asking about him specifically, but is there any player this offseason or any offseason that will just be, quote, too rich for your blood to even begin a conversation with them?
I don't think that's the way we will think about anybody. I mean, I think when you are in our position, when you're the Boston Red Sox, you should never walk past anybody. I mean, look, we've talked about this a lot. I think we need to prioritize having a deep and complete team, and I think we should always give the benefit of the doubt to players we know better players who have been here. But those are general thoughts, and I think if you're just stepping away from and not focused on any player who of that caliber, you're not doing your job.
Chaim, you bring up players that are here that you're familiar with. I thought that you were really honest with Rob Bradford. I really liked your sit down with him this week, but you talked a lot about Rafael Devers and Xander Bogaerts and how when it comes to Xander, he's a player that you would like to see here for a very long time. I think it's even quoted, for the entirety of his career. A player like that you would want here. When looking back on this season, do you wish that maybe you could have gotten something done before the season started to make that not a distraction for Xander and you guys? Every time you've come on the show, we've had to ask you about Xander Bogaerts. Do you think that you could have gotten something done? Do you wish you did something?
Well, of course, because we'd love to have these guys here, and obviously, if the question is settled by them being here, then that's a good thing for everybody. So, I'm not worried about what it means for me or the distraction for me, and I think we have an incredibly focused and professional group that, I don't think is distracted by this nearly as much as a lot of the public conversation would suggest. But our thoughts haven't changed on this. It's nice in a forum like that with Rob, who asked some great questions, to be able to really unpack things at length and go into things. And I always try to be really honest. It's easier to really peel back the layers and get in deep on a topic in that podcast format. So I'm glad we were able to do that. It was a great conversation. But we obviously want to have these guys here, and it's really all about finding a way to do it on a deal that'll be good for everybody, and deals we can win with to make sure we're able to build around these guys and have a team that can win a championship every year for as long as they're here.
Pro tip: should you be unable to reach a deal with Xander, during the Celtics press conference later on today would be a good time to announce it.
I appreciate it. Somehow, one thing I'm pretty confident about is nothing really ever flies under the radar around here, and you're probably just going to hurt yourself if you try to manipulate things like that. So that's why, for better or worse, that's why I don't try.
Chaim, I know you really can't talk about other players who don't play for the organization, but I think the biggest question that a lot of fans like myself have is, could you technically, from a financial standpoint, re-sign a guy like Devers for the money that he's looking for and have a player similar to what Aaron Judge potentially could make on this team?
Yeah, look, here we are blessed with tremendous resources. So the question isn't can we, the question is what's the best way to win championships? And that's the question we're always asking ourselves with any decision, whether it's on a player internally or somebody externally, is how do we put ourselves in the best possible position to win as many championships as possible? And that goes for moves large and small. So, we're fortunate that we don't have to ask ourselves that question of can we. We have to ask ourselves the question every time we contemplate any move, is this the best way, for us to give our fans what they deserve, which is a championship caliber team every year. And obviously when you're considering those commitments, there's upsides to them and there's also trade-offs. That's true about anything we do in life. There's always upsides and trade-offs. So we just try to weigh all those things and figure out what's the best way to push us towards the championship in a team sport.
Well, Chaim, is this the last time that we talk to you this season?
I don't know off the top of my head, but obviously we're getting pretty close to the end of the season, so I think it might be. I'm going to miss you guys.
All right,
you can chat in the off season if you want. You just call me.
Yeah, we'll reach out.
Yeah.
Maybe
just go to Ocean Prime and you can talk to Greg any night. He's there Monday through Friday.
Well, we appreciate you being on all season, and we could not anticipate more what you will do during the off season. So I feel like some people think that you're like that character that when they go to sign the check, their hand shakes. I hope that's not you.
No, look, this is not obviously what we were hoping to be talking about in late September. And that, above all, stinks. It's not what anybody wanted. It's not what we're trying to accomplish. But it's on us to, look at what we need to look at, given that we are in this position. I think on the field, Alex and our staff have been doing a good job of that in terms of making sure we're getting as much information as we can about guys we need to learn about going into the winter. And, then we're going to attack everything that the offseason brings and try to make the most of it.
All right, Chaim Bloom, thank you. Red Sox front office report. We'll talk to you again soon. And here is